Hi everyone, and you are welcome to Static Methods lecture. So far, we have learned how to add methods and attributes on the class level, which are class attributes and class method, and the object level, which is instance attributes and instance method. But what if I want to define a method that doesn't need access neither to object nor to the class itself? How I can define such a method? Join me in this lecture to know how we can do that. First of all, I'll start this lecture by a quick review to the attributes types and methods types. Then we will talk about a new type of methods, which is static methods. And we will learn how we can define static methods in Python. And as usual, I'll end up this lecture by a quick summary. So let's get started. So far, we have learned about two types of methods and two types of attributes. So we learn about instance and class attributes, instance and class methods. The last type of methods that I want to talk about in this course is static methods. So let's see what's a static method and in which context you have to define a static method. So, what's a static method? Simply, static methods are the methods that have a logical connection to the class, but they don't need access to neither instance attributes nor class attributes. So you could ask yourself, why I have to define a method that doesn't have any access to any of class attributes or instance attributes? Simply, the answer is that sometimes you have methods that just logically connected to this class, even it doesn't need this access to the attributes. A very common example about static methods is when you want to define some utilities functions under one class. And these functions usually used as helpful functions for the work of other classes. Now let's see how we can create a static method. First of all, you have to define a class and you have to give it a name. And then you can list these static methods as you wish. So for example, in this example here, I'm showing how to create two static methods. So how I do that? Simply, I use def keyword as a normal function. Then I give this method a name. Then you can use as many as you want of positional argument, then arbitrary arguments. And as you see here, the first parameter in this method is not self and is not class also, which means this method doesn't have any access to the class state or to the object state. When I say class state, I mean class attributes or the data that's related to the class. And when I say object state, I mean instance attributes or the data that's related to the object. But how to make this method a static method? First of all, I define a method. Then you have to use this decorator. @static method. This decorator will convert your method from instance method, if you don't use anything, by default it's instance method, into a static methods. And as usual, I'll say, please don't forget to use the colon after your function definition in order to not get a syntax error. Now let's move to Jupyter Notebook in order to see a real example about static methods. Okay, now let's learn how we can create a static method and how we usually name it. From the previous code session, we have the following class, which is student class. As you can see here, this class has multiple class attributes like the following, has multiple instance attributes, has one instance method, and has two class methods. Now let's see how I can define a static method. And as a quick reminder, usually we define a static method in order to add the method that don't need access neither to the class nor to the object, and they are logically related to the class. Let me give you an example. Let's say that I need a method that it will return true if the student is passed, and it will return false if the student isn't passed according to his CGPA. So I'll define a method using def keyword, then I say is passed, its name, and then it will take CGPA. Look here, I haven't used self and I haven't used CLS. Why? Because static method doesn't need access to CLS or self. But does that mean this is passed method right now is a static method? No. Why? Because in order to make it a static method, you have to use this decorator, which is static method. Once you have that, now this is a static method. So what I want to test is the following. I'll say if CGPA is bigger than 50%, then I will return true. Else I will return false. And look here, the name of this method actually use the same name convention for instance attributes, instance method, and class attribute and class method. Just all the letters are small letter and we use underscore if there is more than two words. Okay, now let's see how we can call this static method. So I'll remove all of these spaces and I will get a new cell, its name, how to call a static method. Very simple. Actually, I will use the name of the class, which is student, and I'll say .isPassed. I'll run this just to make sure that this method is defined, and here it accepts a CGPA value. So I'll say CGPA equal to, let's say 30. And here, in order to use this function, I know that it returns a Boolean value. So I can say if student.isPassed CGPA, I'll say print passed, else I'll say print. So let me run. And here, as usual, let me just print a dummy print statement just to see the result. As you see here, I got failed. Why I got failed? Because in this case, CGPA is less than 50. So less than 50, this means this student is not passed. If I say here 55, let's say, and run, and as you see here, I'll get passed because it's above 50, so the student is passed. And that's all for this code session. Okay, now let's recap what we have learned in this lecture. First of all, we have defined what a static method is, and you see it's just a simple method that have a logical connection to my class, but it doesn't have any access neither to class attributes nor to instance attributes. After that, we see the syntax, and simply we say we define a static method as any normal method in Python, but we have to add the decorator at static method. And as usual, don't forget the colon after the class definition. Now please refer to the lecture resources in order to find some challenges to practice what you have learned in this lecture. Thank you very much for your time, and if you are available, join me in the next lecture.